Good evening and welcome to Sim Racing Online. You're currently watching what is the 5th round of the Formula 79 Championship. And we are currently at Le Mans Bugatti today. Le Mans Bugatti, a shortened version of the full Le Mans circuit. We are using the 1967 layout. So slightly straighter, slightly less chicane-like than before, but going to run through some housekeeping before we get started. I'm just going to make sure that my sound settings are correct, so bear with me. I've had to do a few swaps around with all kinds of technology, and I've only just got it all up and running, so I may have to do some of this on the fly. So if we go to our settings, they are. There we go. So if you haven't joined us for the first 4 rounds, the first 4 rounds have been very exciting. We are expecting about, I think it's about 13 drivers today. We are missing a couple of championship contenders, so we are looking at what could be a championship decider today, depending on what happens, but I'll go through that in a second. So as I say, that we're using the Formula 79, which is based on the Lotus 79, a very popular car from the late 70s, early 80s. Very instrumental with bringing in the ground effect era, if you're familiar with that. And you have to be very, very brave with knowing that your car's going to stick to the ground. So that's what we're looking for. That's the one we want. So we're going to set that. And just bear with me 1 second. Okay. So you may have been hearing me in one ear for that past little intro. Apologies. I did forget to switch over my microphone, but it's all good. So, the Lotus 79, as I said, ground effect, nearly a 3-litre naturally aspirated engine, 475 horsepower. Now, as I say, we are at the Le Mans Bugatti, and I apologise in advance because there's going to be some very bad French pronunciation of corners and such. So, as I said, the Bugatti circuit is like cut down version of the main Le Mans circuit, and apparently Charles Duch, who divides his time between the chief engineer for the French Department of Bridges and Roads, being a partner of the Dutch bonnet racing constructor, designed the circuit back in 1965. One of the only parts that it does incorporate of the main circuit is the main straight and the first corner. And then it heads off into the countryside and then back out onto the main straight. It did only hold one Formula 1 Grand Prix in 1967. Now, if you're familiar with sim racing in general, it probably would have been in the Grand Prix Legends game, but it was replaced with a different French circuit instead, I guess because of licenses and such. It hasn't held any other international events, the Bugatti circuit that is, with one exception being the FIA Formula 3000 race, which was held in 1987 up till 1991. And I believe it does hold MotoGP, the main, not the main circuit, this circuit up to the present day, but the circuit is a little bit different. Just looking back at lap records, So that's the 90s, 80s, 65. So that record was actually held by a Formula 3 car of this particular circuit, this particular layout, a 136.62. Now I am looking at the practice times, and we have beaten a 136. So we've made a record. Hooray! So, as I say, the championship is very tight tonight. Very, very tight. You can see that the top 2 or 3 are covered by about 10 points. So Kirillov is currently leading the championship. And his nearest championship contender, Lons, is on 71 points in second. Now that is the driver that is not here today. So will that mean that Kirillov can actually take the championship today? We'll have to wait and see. In third we have Mikhail Masaryk on 66 points. Maddie Shepherd on 54 points. And rounding out the top 5, Philip Pichler, with 28 points. So the top 4 have been a class of their own. And they've been sharing the honours in the standings. Sharing all the podium places between themselves. So hopefully we have a clean race today. It is kind of drastically different from all the courses we have done previously. The 2 long straights, and you just have to bear with through the infield section, but there's 2 big passing places, but we'll get to that in a second. So as I said, championship prediction: if Kirillov does win the championship, he can take the championship by finishing first today, but he has to make sure that his championship rival in this place will be Michael Masaryk finishes lower than 7th place, then he's mathematically counted out of the championship. So it can be won today. Points available for the final 2 rounds, 54 points in total, which is 25 points per win, and you do get a point for a fastest lap and a pole. Now we will try and do this on the fly. I don't think, unless something drastic happens, I have been talking to some of the drivers beforehand, unless something drastic happens, the championship will not change hands today. So let's perhaps get to the track and see what the drivers are doing for their fast laps. What do we need? We need our tower on so you can see the timing and everything. So I have actually had to switch around a lot of things to get going today. So if there are any bugs in the system, you'll just have to bear with me. So top of the practice timesheets at the moment is Tony Talviti. Tony Talviti is currently lower down in the championship order. Let me just get up my championship order so I can see what we're doing. There we go. So I need to know me points. There we go. So, if we run through championship order and see what drivers we have on track today. There are a couple of no-shows. But let's might as well start from the top. Let's start from Kirillov. So Kirillov currently taking a little bit of an excursion on the track at the moment. I did have a talk with Kirillov, and he said, "I'd love to win this, but I need to stop spinning." So case in point. So Kirillov is currently leading the championship. He's had 2 wins so far, but he had a torrid time last time out. He was only able to score 12 points. There were some pit stop problems in the last race, which caused a few drivers a lot of problems. But hopefully there's no such problems this time. So 2 wins. Hopefully he can add to his total today. Second in the championship, Lons is not present. Third in the championship is Michael Masaryk. Now Masaryk I believe is running in the... It's not the ATS livery. I'll have to remind myself what it is, but nice bright yellow livery should stand out. Michael Masaryk has finished second 3 times so far this season. His first race managed to get 10 points, which was 5th place. So nothing but consistent. He's managed to get 1 fastest lap and 1 pole so far. But he has to stay in the top 3 or top 5 to continue his championship run. So hopefully he can do that. Maddie Shepherd. 1 last time out. You'll see it's in JPS Lotus livery. So Maddie Shepherd has had a spell of bad luck mid-season. Started off the season in round 1 with a 2nd place, but then round 2 and round 3 would only grab 9 points in total. But 1 last time out, she was one of the only ones to not fall foul of some of the pit stop issues. So we were at Mont Tremblant in Canada 2 weeks ago, and she managed to get into the pits and out of the pits with not too many trouble. We did have trouble at the start of the race, so we had to do a rolling start, which was quite eventful. Hopefully it will just be back to normal with a standing start today. I mean, it is Le Mans, maybe we could do a rolling start for this, but the rules are that it's going to be a standing start. So 4th in the championship, with an outside chance of the championship. I'm just counting in my head, that's 72 to 54. So 18 points behind, but something dramatic would need to happen to the front in order for her to grab the win. Podium is possible, but the win might be out of her reach. Right, next driver, Philip. That's not Philip, that's Philip Pichler. We are 10 minutes away from quali at the moment. This is Philip Pichler, currently 5th in the championship. His best point scoring was in round 3, which was 5th place. So a little pace to find. As I say, the top 4 have seemingly been in a league of their own. Some of the courses have been very, very similar, with long sweeping corners, and this is no exception. Seems a very low grip surface. There seems to be a lot of people having a lot of trouble putting the power down, but hopefully Philip can perhaps stay in his top 5, because the pack is not far behind. As we head to Phil Brown. Phil Brown is in the Martini liveried Lotus. Martini Racing liveried Lotus. And Phil Brown was able to grab a top 3 in the first round, but since then he's only taken part in round 2 and round 3. He had an absolute nightmare round 2 and round 4. He has an absolute nightmare in round 4, where he's only able to scrape into the top 10 to grab a single point. But he is not far behind 5th place in the championship, so all to play for. As we spoke about Tony Talvidi before, very distinctive blue and white livery. So Tony Talvidi has only been able to take part in round 1, 2 and 4 due to work schedule. Not had the greatest of luck. He's had the pace, but he's not had the greatest of luck in his championship so far, and has finished a top score of 4th place, which was in round 2. Would have bagged him at 12 points. And then we have his teammate not far behind, which is the host of the series, which is John van der Geest, in what would be the Arrows livery. So the Warsteiner sponsored Arrows liveried Lotus 79. John van der Geest started off with some good points. He's taken part in every single round, obviously being the host. he had a bit of a nightmare in the last round at Montreal. I believe he had a hardware failure or a software failure, and he wasn't able to take the start. But his first round at Black Hat County managed to grab 12 points for fourth. So John Van der East has some work to do. He's still in the hunt for fifth place in the championship because he's only on 23 points, so not too far behind. So that's at 20 points rather. Sorry. Next driver is Paul Upham. Unfortunately, we join him while he's recovering from a spin. So Paul Upham in. I always think it's the McLaren livery. It might be McLaren, might be Alfa Romeo. I'm not sure which, because Kirilov is in a very similar livery. So if we go on board, we may be able to see if it's McLaren. It's a James Hunt, so it is the McLaren livery. Paul Upham. So Paul Upham has not had the best luck. He's always been knocking on the door of the top five, but he's not. Seems to get caught in the first lap incidents and has to work his way back through the field. So he has the pace, but he just needs to keep his nose clean and hopefully gain some big points this afternoon. So he's currently 9th in the championship, and we're going to round out the top 10. I'm not sure if our 10th driver is here. He is. So Marius Lebioda is here. Currently on 13 points, 10th in the championship. He's been able to take part in rounds 1, 2 and 3. And last time out, he was able to grab a 4th place. So where other people were suffering lots of problems, Marius was able to keep his nose clean and come home with a well-earned 4th place. So, I believe we have our next one. So this is Kimi Martikainen in the, you'll notice, a Renault livery. So a very distinctive black, yellow and white liveried Lotus. I believe back in these days it was, I can't remember what drivers it was. Was it Alain Prost? I don't think Alain Prost was in there in the 70s, can't remember. But Kimi Martikainen has taken part in 3 rounds this year. Unfortunately, his top score was in the first round. He managed to grab 6 points, but that was for 7th place, so he hasn't really got up to the top 5 as yet. But that should round out our top drivers. So I don't believe our last 3 are on the grid. So the people we are missing today, they may turn up in the next 5 minutes, because we are going to go to quali in 5 minutes. That's a hell of a drift there coming out the final corner. See if we can go on board with our driver as well. So the drivers we may be missing, we have Mitchell Kokotsky, who did his first round last round, Jari Lakinen and Ed Jones, or Edward Jones, currently not on the server. So let's go and have a lap around the circuit with in fact, let's go to take a lap around the circuit with Tony Tauviti. So coming through the Dunlop turn up to the Virage de La Chapelle. So pretty much a hairpin turn for the first part of the circuit. Accelerate hard all the way up the hill under the Dunlop Bridge down to the Garage de Musée corner. Big spoon curve. And down the hill again. What is the Garage Vert? I think that's Vert. Is that green? I can't remember my French very well. And then we come up to what will be one of the big passing places on the circuit. So big long straight with a kink in it as we come into sector 3. Flat out through this turn. Chemin de Eau Bouffes. Is that eggs? Can't remember. And then we come into the slowest part of the circuit, which is the Essence. It's named the S de Garage Bleu. And the last corner, Virage de Recordement. And up across the only part of the circuit which shares it with the Le Sarthe circuit. And we go up the hill into turn 1. So turn 1 should be very interesting on the first lap. If we're all coming from the standing start, it means the speeds will be low or lower than if we were doing a rolling start, but it's a big wide turn, so hopefully it will mean less accidents. So there's a lot of space on this circuit, a lot of space to in order to pass on what will be maybe the 2 straights, which have quite hard braking zones at the end. So I'd imagine there'll be some out-braking manoeuvres. So what we've seen in many of our races is that wing level has been a big setup issue, because there's a lot of people that go with a low downforce setup and just have to suffer through the corners. Then people that do the opposite, go for a high downforce setup and suffer on the straights. So there is a discussion between the drivers what's the best way to go. So we're currently looking at Uncle Mazarek, currently 3rd in the championship. Distinct yellow liveried car. So this is Matthew Shepherd just coming down to one of the hairpin bends. Rather, this is the S's part of the circuit. So the slowest part of the circuit seems a bit of a, maybe referred to as a Mickey Mouse part of the circuit, but what happened from 67 onwards, I believe this layout was stayed the same until the 1980s, and then suddenly they started to put all the chicanes in it, started to shorten some of the straights, and obviously the changes to the main circuit would mean changes to this circuit as well. So, but as I say, it was only used once for Formula 1. So who is the first out in qualification? We're going to close that down so we can get an updated order there. Sometimes the order on track doesn't refer to my track map very well, so. So, let's go out on the track. So it's actually number 7, Kirill Kirillov. It's going to be doing the first timed lap. So timed laps we did see from practice was a 1:26 at best, maybe dipping into the 1:27s. And all these drivers really surprised me with just how fast are they go in quali, so whether they were practicing race setups or practicing quali setups in practice, we'll have to see. So who the first or the last turn up to the, so in fact this is Patrick Tarnbay's car, so this will be a McLaren as well, I believe, unless I've got my Formula 1 history wrong. So down to the first turn, braking hard. Now brakes himself into turn 1. It's not a good start to the lap. Going to miss out on those concrete polo mints, as we refer to them, because I'd imagine every single one of those is going to be solid, so you don't really want to take any of the infield. So down up to the next hairpin bend. So it's a set of hairpin bends or spoon bends, split up by some straights or part straight, part corner. So this is one of the passing places, a big drafting opportunity down this straight here into sector 3. Flat out all the way down there, hard braking all the way down to what looks like 3rd gear, even 2nd gear. And then the last corner slowing right down, keeping it as tight as possible. You don't want to run up to the barrier because there is a grass verge at the edge there. And across the line, let's see what our represented time is. We've got a 1:26.8. Masaryk behind has just pipped for provisional pole. As we go on board with Pichler, currently not put a representative time in yet. So currently Pileman, Masaryk is doing what he needs to do to stay in this championship fight. 1:26.827. Pichler struggling to get the power down at the final corner. Could this be a representative time? It is 5th place. 1:30.1. He's got some work to do. Let's have a look at Marius Labioda. 6th place. Need to put a representative time in, so it needs to be 1:26.8. Down towards one of the hairpin bends. Very interested to see whether these drivers are able to go through some of these corners side by side. They look very flat. There is no particular, well, no significant camber. So going side by side through the turns might not be a possibility. But up towards the final S's. It looks like Mehdi Shepherd has popped up to 2nd place with a 1:26.9, which knocks Kirillov down to 3rd with a 1:27.2. Again, it looks very slick in that last corner as Marius comes across the line. And he goes in 4th at 1:27.3, a very good lap time. Very good lap time indeed. Martikainen 0.3 away from 8th place. Struggling to get the car stopped in that spoon bend there. But he's wishing that he did have a Renault because he would have a horsepower advantage down this long straight here. Up towards the last S's of the course. So he's still got 0.7 to find if he wants to go up a place. Now, if you haven't joined us with Sim Racing Online before, you will know that the rules dictate that you have to do an out lap, a fast lap, or many fast laps, whatever you want to do, and have to do an in lap. You cannot escape out on circuit. So, Martikainen, currently 10th place with a 1:30.1. So this looks like every driver has put a time in. That's Labioda. Excuse me, only 0.3 now away from 4th place. Not able to improve. It looks like Kirillov has now found some pace and has now gone up to provisional pole with just over 8 minutes to go. 1:26.8, so the time's at the top. So Phil Brown struggling to get it slowed down at the hairpin bend at the start of the lap. It's always a bit of a pain when you've done all your out lap, you've warmed your tyres, and suddenly you lock up the tyres in turn 1. Makes you feel hopeless for the rest of it, or you push a bit too much in the remaining of the lap. So 900ths of a second to find to go up to 5th place. I'm sure if Phil Brown. So there's big drafting battles up the main straight here. Looks like Kirillov It's either Kirillov or Paul Upham. I think that's Kirillov ahead. That's Kirillov, that's Pichler. And this is Phil Brown, just going through the final few turns. So, not really that much to find. This is, looks like he's coming into the pits. That was his in-lap. So Mazurek currently on his out-lap. Now Mazurek doesn't need to find an awful lot. A couple of hundredths of a second. To keep his championship alive, he needs to stay very close to Kirillov. So it looks like a lot of people are deciding that they need a little more heat in their tyres. I would say there's not a lot of fast bends on this circuit to gather heat in the tyres, so you need to be rather aggressive and putting some heat into them. So with just over 6 minutes to go, it's Kirillov that leads, Mazurek second, Tauviti in third, Shepherd fourth, and Labioda in fifth. So the top five are covered by just over half a second. That's very, very quick. So Mazurek coming all the way down to turn one, keeping it very tight in turn one. Up parts of a straight up towards what we call a spoon bend. It's not really a hairpin, but it's still a third gear, and Michael's taking it. I did see last week as well that a few people were deciding to go into the higher gears for some of the slower corners. It's a little bit wide, but you need a good exit for this part. This is one of the longest straights on the circuit, apart from the main straight. This will be the back straight. This will have a slight kink to the left and then down towards a hard stopping point. Looks like he ran a little bit wide there. Staying in second gear for the last turn. Let's see if he's able to improve up to pole. It's going to be very, very close. We've got 5 minutes to go. Doesn't look like he was able to improve. Tauviti has decided that he wants a podium. He is now up to third place. So it's very close at the top. Covered by a couple of tenths of a second. This is going to, if the pace is like this race is going to be very, very close. So just a reminder, this race is 60 minutes long. There is no mandatory pit stop, although we've found that a lot of drivers do decide to do one. So across the line, Tauviti able to improve. He's been knocked down to fourth place as Shepherd has suddenly gone to the top of the time sheets with a 126.7. So very, very close between these top 4 and 5. In fact, down to sixth place. They're all covered by hundredths of a second or tenths of a second. So I wonder whether Shepherd will be going out for doing a second fast lap. Just under 4 minutes to go. John van der Geest is only 1 second away from sixth place, and that top 6 are in a little bit of a class of their own, unless John van der Geest can get a little closer. He's struggling to get it slowed down. I don't know if that's a trouble with gear shifts. Through the slower corners, this car does seem a little bit of a handful. So across the line, has he been able to improve his 7th place? I don't believe he has. So we got back to Paul Upham. Paul Upham's not far from 8th place. So Philip Pichler ahead. But back in the 129s. So maybe he's opted for a little more downforce. So you could possibly see that some of the drivers that were maybe looked very slow through the infield section, maybe they were just making sure that the car stuck to the ground with all the lack of downforce they have. But you really do have to put a lot of trust in whether the car's going to stick with the ground effect. The faster you go, the better it sticks to the ground. A slight bit of oversteer, and I think Paul Upham has decided that we're going to abandon that lap. So Pichler was just letting Maddie Shepherd through. Maybe able to grab a toe onto his final lap, perhaps. You see, I believe that's John van der Geest just recovering off the sand there. Final turn. See, the temptation is to step on the loud pedal coming out of the final corner, but through turn 1 again. So with just over a minute to go, it's Shepherd in pole, provisional pole. And Shepherd looks like she's slowing, and she says that's enough for me. So 126.6 to beat. Talviti is only 200ths away, and he's not got a lot of time to beat that lap time. Kirilov, championship leader, in third with a 126.8. Looks like he hasn't been able to improve past his fastest lap. It's set near the start of the session with Talviti. I believe this should be his last lap. I don't think he's going to get another one in after this. So coming to the end of the back straight, working hard down into this section. He's only got 200ths to find for pole, as he found it. So keeping it tighter to the apex. Temptation to grab the throttle. Has he been able to find any time? So the line he goes, and that is pole. 126.496. He was able to grab it at the last, but has anyone else got anything for him? Masaryk coming up to his final lap, only again 200ths away from third, but he has about 0.2 of a second to find for provisional pole. So Kirilov, Masaryk, Brown and Upham still on the circuit. So we're going to be watching Masaryk finish his qualifying lap. Let's see if he's able to maybe grab up onto the podium. Everyone ahead of him is now in the pits, so couldn't quite get the power down as he wanted, but can he improve his position? I believe he stays fourth. And the last two put in a lap time, I believe, is Paul Upham. Paul Upham into the final corner. In 9th place, can he improve his position? Accelerating hard across the line. In fact, he does. He goes up to 8th place with a 128.9. And that is our qualifying order. So, Talviti in first, Kirilov second, Shepherd third, Masaryk fourth, Labioda in fifth, Brown sixth, Van der Geest in seventh, Upham eighth, Pichler in ninth, and Martikainen rounding out the top 10. So, 60 minutes of racing. 60 minutes of racing. We have a little period where we listen to the to the admin, run through the briefing. So, just to reiterate, we are going for 60 minutes. There is no mandatory pit stop. We are doing lap times around 1:26, 1:27. So I'd imagine that we're going to be kind of laps are we going to be doing. I can't do maths in my head. So if it was a 1 minute, it would be 60 laps. So quite a fast pace. We're going to have to wait and see whether we can actually get no accidents in turn 1, because it's quite a sharp stopping point at the end once they've come through what is, I suppose, turn 1 up to the first hairpin. So hopefully everyone can keep their noses clean. We're just waiting for the countdown. So as I say, the championship can actually be concluded tonight with 1 round to go. Kirillov, if he wins, and his closest competitor, who is Masaryk, because Lon's second in the championship is not here today. If Masaryk finishes lower than 7th place and Kirillov wins, then he's possibly won the championship. But we do need to take into account there's going to be points for fastest lap and pole. So Talviti got a point for pole. So we're just gridding up at the moment. I'll make sure that I am in position for the green flag. Assetto Corsa can be sometimes a little awkward with this. So I'm going to have to place myself so you can see the action. And then I've got to get my car off the grid as soon as possible. At the moment, unfortunately, I've put myself in the grass. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to plonk myself here. So, 60 minutes of racing. How is it going to go? We are gridding up 3 by 3 here, so it's going to be a bit tight up to turn 1. Right, green flag, and away we go. That is 1 car up in the fence at the moment. I don't know if that's lag related, but in turn 1 we go. Looks like 1 was left standing. So 1 through cleanly. Maddie Shepherd up to turn 1. It looks like Kirillov is actually nearly able to grab, but unfortunately he knocked his championship contender out. That was a bit unfortunate. So Maddie Shepherd was able to grab pole. It looks like Tony Talviti was a bit slower away from the line, but he's regrouped and is now back into 2nd place. But this is good for championship points. But Kirillov is now being chased by Labioda behind in the blue and yellow car. So big long straight. Looks like draft is an opportunity. Labioda is right under the rear wing of Kirillov, coming up to one of the hairpin bends. Kirillov goes slightly defensive there. You could sense that the draft was effective, and he's able to defend. Has there been a change for the lead? I don't think there is. We're coming across the line for the first lap. I believe it is Maddie Shepherd that is still leading. Tony Talviti not far behind. Kirillov, championship leader, in 3rd. Putting a slight gap on Labioda behind. And then we have, as we see, Labioda just out braking himself coming into that first hairpin bend. Then we get Brown, John Van der Geest, and Pichler not far behind that. There seems to be a bigger gap between 7th and 8th. So I wonder whether it was Paul Upham that came to grief. We saw a car up in the air that looked like they were rubbing the barrier. I don't know if that was lag related or not. Whether they got shuffled out to the side there, but Martikainen now in 9th. But it does look like from that turn 1 incident, unfortunately Masaryk has been pushed down to the back there. If I was him, I would probably feel slightly aggrieved, because it was his nearest championship contender that pushed him wide. And he's got a fight back of all fight backs to do if he's to win this championship. So I wonder whether the stewards would get involved in that. As I say, I would maybe be a little bit aggrieved. We do work a little bit on the honour system in this series, or in this league in general. If you do accidentally collide with one of your competitors, it is best just to give the place back and have another go. So, Masaryk with time to find at the back of the field, whether he's now got to go with the long game. Andy Shepherd leading the field, pulled out a gap of about 1.5 seconds, which I believe is out of the draft. So he's going to be able to keep these tyres alive. I don't know whether tyre wear is really going to be too much of an issue. Do have some really big stopping points, which is going to be putting a lot of energy through the tyres, so we'll have to wait and see. So Taubiti coming up to the final S's section of the track. It looks like Abioda is not letting Kirillov go. It's like a bit of oversteer. So only about 1 second in between. I believe you have to be within and under a second to get any benefit of the draft. So this is the battle for 3rd and 4th. Kirillov ahead, Labioda second. And Phil Brown not far behind. So Masaryk on his fight back. He has been able to pass Paul Upham, and he's now up to 9th place. And a lot of work to do. He's only about a corner away from where the leader is, but it's still quite significant portion of time to catch up the field. So John van der Geest. Slight marks on the car. I wonder whether it was John van der Geest that had that trouble on the main straight. You can normally tell when a car has come to grief, when the car will get marked up a little. I believe it was on the side pod unless I was seeing things, but doesn't look like too much damage. Seems to be on his own in the 6th place here, so there seems to be a bit of a pace gap between the front runners and the cars behind, but that's Pitchler in the background, and Masaryk catching up quickly. So, just over 53 minutes to go. Shepherd has now pulled out a 2-second lead, locking tyres into turn 1. Up to what will be the start of the 2nd sector. So all of these spoon bends or hairpin bends, they seem to drop away. No particular banking to help you around the corner. So very flat corners. I mean, at least they're not off camber. That's a thing. So up the back straight. So you can see a lot of drivers able to possibly get in the draft. So that's Shepherd, that's Taubiti, that's Kirillov, that's Labioda, and that is Phil Brown. So the drivers seem to be very equidistant. Gaps are pulling out quite significantly. So Masaryk has now been able to pass Fischler and is now up to 7th. This is a hell of a comeback. He does have the pace to be up with the front runners, but he's having to work his tyres very, very hard to get there. So now 7th place. As we go to the heli-cam over the bridge, or under the bridge, coming up to turn 1. There's the bridge, that's the bridge. So down towards the hairpin. Keeping it very tight there. So you can see his quarry ahead. So his next quarry is John van der Geest. So let's see what kind of pace. So 127.9. That's what kind of pace that Zurich is running. Obviously, have to carve your way through the traffic, slow you down a little, so lock up coming into that hairpin bend. So I don't know whether the 126s are a possibility. So up the back straight one more time. Let's see what kind of speed we're getting. 275, 276, 277 was the speed. 277 kilometers an hour. I believe that's probably the fastest part of the circuit. Now directly under the rear wing of John van der Geest. Possibility of perhaps passing into what I believe is maybe classed as turn 2. So that was classed as turn 1. Now if they went forwards, that would be heading onto the, I suppose you maybe call it the Grand Prix circuit, but the Le Mans circuit. But this is where we head off on the Bugatti circuit. So a big gap now for the next driver. It looks like we have lost one driver. Martikainen may have retired. I think Martikainen was 10th. Unfortunately, something happened. So Masaryk continues his fight back, now up to 6th place with 5 seconds to find. So if we look at the leaders, Shepard's last lap around was a 126.6, so the lap time for the leaders is quite significantly faster. Coming back to Talviti in the 127s. So I wonder whether a couple of people are maybe playing the long game, saving a little bit of tyre rubber for later in the, I was going to say the Grand Prix. I suppose you could call it a Grand Prix. So down, what I'm going to call turn 1. I don't consider the slight curve to be a turn, but 126.7, so upped his pace a little. And then Kirilov has now found some pace as well, so back into the 126.8 range. Labioda is struggling to hang on, I think. About 2.5 seconds behind Kirilov, but this would be a good finish for Labioda in 4th. He was able to fly under the radar last time out in 4th place, so 4th place would be a very good, strong finish. And of course Labioda is languishing down in 10th place in the championship at the moment, so this would be good points. Good points indeed. So from 4th place back to 5th place. Phil Brown, a little bit of a gap, and we may see come into view. Not quite. But the yellow car of Masaryk is stalking Phil Brown. So Phil Brown only in the 128s, so Masaryk I believe was in the 127 range. So low 127s that last time out, so just a matter of time. The gap is now down to 4 seconds. So we'll just see it when he brakes for turn 1. You can see Phil Brown ahead rather. He brakes for turn 1. Coming up to The other hairpin bend. What you'll see as well is it's very bumpy around these turns. I don't know if that's by design, or whether just the way the track is made, but a lot of these apexes are very, very bumpy. I've had a little bit of a drive around it myself, and it's a very fast and flowing circuit. It's these main straights, so there's the main straight and the back straight, as you can see, are drafting opportunities. So catching Phil Brown, that is Labioda, unfortunately, that's Phil Brown. There's the yellow car behind, you can see, catching. So this is the closest battle on the track at the moment. So Brown coming through this sweeping turn and under the Dunlop Bridge. I'm surprised the cars don't get a little bit of air coming over the top of there. But, so Brown, Mazurek. So the lead that Shepherd has is now opened up to 4 seconds, with 15 minutes gone in the race. 15 minutes. Time does fly. No particular trouble with last lap time, 1:26.6, so the pace is still there. Pulled out a little bit of a gap. They look very close on the track map, but pulled out quite a significant gap. So the top three covered 3 seconds between. You can see Kirillov is only a few seconds behind Tauviti, that red and white car. So will Kirillov be happy just to settle for third? But we are expecting maybe the drivers are going to be pitting at half distance. In those tyres, do them any good, but who's going to run out of tyre wear first? We did spot a lot of people that were just choosing half distance as their when they were going to come in. So will there be any different strategies? So Mazurek now is now within 1.3 seconds of Brown. You can see Brown just ahead there. So Mazurek, if he gets up to 5th, it will be 10 points in the bag. And I suppose the added bonus is that Kirillov is not scoring a win at the moment anyway. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 44 minutes. But let's see if Mazurek can get close in this sector 3 of the lap, stay under the rear wing and draft up to turn 1, as he did with John van der Geest. Slight bit of oversteer on exit. Let's join on board with Mazurek, see if he's close enough. So within 0.3 of a second. Is that close enough to get up into the hairpin? He's way better on the brakes. Can he get it slowed down? He can. I was thinking that was going to be far too late on the brakes, but he managed to get it stopped. He pulled out nice and early just to show his intention, and there was no going back. So now up to 5th place. And now to catch Labioda ahead. He needs to catch about 5 seconds, 6 seconds. Or is it 9 seconds? It's very hard to tell with this overlay. So Labioda just coming to the end of the straight. So Labioda can only just see Kirillov ahead now. Kirillov has pulled out a little bit of a gap. So the top three seem to be kind of edging away. Labioda is struggling to keep it into the 127, so 127 low from Labioda. And then Mazurek just coming up the main straight, doing 126s, so catching about 4 or 5 tenths a lap. So should only take 20 laps or so for him to catch, but we're not seeing very many mistakes apart from the mistake at turn 1 from Kirillov. I wonder whether we will see some angry comments in the paddock afterwards. But we'll see. Another thing we made aware of, I suppose, is that there are some sharp stopping points on this track. Is braking power going to be a thing as the race goes on? I don't think we're going to suffer any failures, but there are some very, very hard stopping points, particularly at the end of the back straight and at the end of the main straight. So we see Shepard coming up to the first turn. Now Shepard has had a couple of good finishes this season. Was able to finish second in the first round and they won in round 4. But the 2 circuits, round 1 and round 3, weren't very lucky. Still able to score points, but still put paid to their maybe taking the championship this time out. But has been very, very strong. Coming up to the start of the back straight. So a lot of the drivers are now very, very spaced out. You can see Talviti just in the background there. And got back to Paul Upham out on his own. Looks like it was either a pit stop or a spin that last time out. That was a 137, so that's significantly off the pace. So I wonder whether there was a particular problem. So dropping to Phil Brown, who's still chasing, giving chase to Mazurek. I think Mazurek has probably got the pace to pull away. And gets up the main straight. So 39 minutes to go. It's still Shepard leading, Talviti in second, Kirillov championship leader in third, Labioda in fourth, Mazurek on the fight back from the back of the field in fifth, Phil Brown in sixth, Van der Geest in seventh, Pichler in eighth, and Upham in ninth. And I believe we've had one retirement, which was Martikainen, very, very early on. Looking at the tyre choice as well, it looks like everybody has decided to go for soft tyres this time around. We did have a little bit of a mixture of tyre compounds in the earlier rounds, but everyone has decided that the soft tyres are able to at least do half distance and change at half distance. There was one round in particular where there were some drivers that didn't stop at all. So the no stopper is actually possible at some rounds, but I'm not sure whether we'll see it this time out. We are possibly 8 minutes away from our first pit stops. As Shepard continues up towards the hairpin, Talviti does the same. Continuing down this hill. And it's a pretty open circuit as well. One of the benefits of this circuit is that in the infield section you can see your competitors coming down the other way. So you get a visual representation of where your competitors are. Probably less so coming up this section because you're buried in a little bit of a hill here. So this corner does remind me a lot of Oldham Park, but going through this final section. I always found it a little easier to judge pace when you have someone to follow, but that's just me. It's always a bit easier when you have a carrot to chase. So, Labioda still hanging on to that 4th place, but do we get to be able to play the Jaws music? Because Masaryk is catching, but Labioda has got his lap time down to about 26.9, so he's no slouch. He's only about half a straight away, so 127.1. So has the pace advantage come to an end as these tyres are nearing the end of their life? 36 minutes to go. Who's going to be the first to pit? So we're going to have to ask ourselves what kind of strategy are these drivers planning? Is Masaryk planning anything different because of the accident on the first lap? We will have to see. So, a couple of good things happening with sim racing online in the next few months. We are running many championships upcoming. A couple of them are, we have on June 1st the continuation of the Enduro Races P2 and GTE Championship. I can't remember whether that's in round 3 or 4 at the moment. That's been very good. That's broadcast on this channel as well by Rob Milliken. And Sim Racing Online also does Automobilista 2 races. So on June 2nd, which is the Monday, it will be the continuation of the Delara Open Wheel Challenge. And on Saturday, June the 7th, will be Le Mans Ultimate. And it's the GT3 Masterclass. Masterclass Championship. And then on June 8th will be the Formula Renault 1975 Championship, which is on a Sunday, which is what I personally will be taking part in. So that's always good fun. So that's French cars on a French track, as we're at today. Slight bit of oversteer for Maddie coming out the final corner. So these tyres have seen better days. Can't wait to change. But who is going to be the first to blink? Don't want to pit unless you have to. So the lead gap is now up to about 10 seconds at most. So about half a straight away. So we see TLBT coming through turn 1. It looks like a lot of people are locking up into turn 1 as the left front does become unloaded. Kirillov still maybe 4 seconds adrift in third, so good points. It will still be 15 points for Kirillov for the championship. It's not a win, but it's still picking up the points and making it harder and harder for his competitors to catch. Labioda in a very strong fourth. You can see Kirillov just exiting the turn as he is coming into it. And I think you can possibly hear in the background. If we look behind, we could possibly see a yellow car gaining on us. Not not quite close enough at the time being. So it looks like the car was bottoming out at the end of the turn as well. Which is very strange. A few sparks from the bottom of the car. But coming up to exactly half distance in 2 minutes time. So there's the yellow car in the background, you can just see it. So a lot of people struggling to get the power down in out of that last turn. You need all of that momentum to carry you up this straight to have any hope of passing. But as you come down to this really strong braking point, and it seems to be that everyone's locking tyres. So looking back again, you might be able to take a little bit of a glimpse of a yellow car just coming over the crest there. Labiota is now drifted into the 127.4 range. So Masaryk is gaining for that 4th place. So if Masaryk is able to gain for the 4th place, that will be 12 points. So you can see both cars within the same straight here. So Kirillov will only come away with 15 and Masaryk will come away with 12. So it keeps the championship close, heading into what will be the final round, which I believe is taking place at Zolder 1967. So a track which is very similar to this. As we see, Maddie is the first to pit as she comes out of the pit lane in 3rd place. And that's Labiota just behind, so she was able to do her pit stop and come out just ahead of 4th place. I believe that is Masaryk that has just pitted as well. So we've got 2 drivers that have decided that half distance is when they want to pit. So fresh tyres. Does that mean that Labiota has now got to pit in order to cover off the undercut? He does have the advantage of a fast car in front. He can possibly get a whiff of a draft. So 126.8, so maybe his tyres aren't falling off as much as the others. Maybe he's deciding on a bit of a later pit stop. Is he going to come in this time? So Talviti and Kirillov are pitting too. So the top 3 have pitted. So Talviti coming out the pits in 3rd. In a net 2nd, basically. We are waiting for Labiota to pit, and Kirillov just coming out the pits. As we see, Phil Brown is coming in or coming out. I think he's coming in. He's coming in. So pitting from 6th place, and that puts Masaryk back up to 5th, I believe. A short pit stop. Be sure not to collide with the car at the end of the pit lane. That is me. That's my car. But I'm not in it. So Phil Brown exits onto the main straight in 6th place. So Shepherd back up to the lead by 1.9 seconds. We are expecting Labiota behind to pit. Looks like the gaps were kept quite consistent. So is Labiota going to pit this time around? So that time's 127.2. He's continuing. Very interesting strategy. He will end up with tyres that are probably a bit newer later on in the race. And it doesn't look like it takes a lot of time to change tyres as well, so maybe this is an interesting strategy. I'm just looking at the times, about 26 seconds Masaryk is behind. So I'm going to keep an eye on this. So Tauriti, what we believe is a net second place, but it does depend what Labioda's strategy is. So Tauriti is about 10 seconds behind Labioda, and you can possibly see Labioda just ahead. In fact, you can see Shepherd as well. So going down towards one of the sharpest turns of the circuit. So coming up to the end of the lap, again we're waiting for possibly Labioda to come into the pits. So the top four are now spaced out quite significantly. Really pushing the braking at the end of that section. The main straight. So another lap goes by and it looks like Labioda still is not pitting. He's now 2 seconds shy of the lead, so I'm wondering what this strategy is all about. The pace is not dropping off, maybe those slower laps at the start of the race for this exact reason, or maybe he's changed up the strategy. So Kirillov now in 4th place, what I think might become 3rd. And it does look like Masaryk has got some time to find behind, currently in 5th place. 17 seconds. So that's quite a significant portion of lap time to find. So I think the circuit is proving to be quite difficult because not many people are making significant mistakes. Some of the lap times are very, very close together. But there was a chance of an undercut. Now up to under 25 minutes to go. I always think that the first part of the race is a flurry of activity. It then calms down towards half distance and then the pit stops happen, which opens up significant chances for things to go wrong. But it doesn't look like a lot of people are making mistakes, not giving that opportunity for passing. It does look like our leader is coming up to lap. I believe that's Paul Upham in 9th. Paul Upham 1 lap down. Paul Upham pulls to the side of the track. Nice bit of draft. As Shepherd pulls to the outside, the gap for the lead has now gone up 3 seconds. So Shepherd is now in the 126.3 range. So again, we eagerly wait to see what kind of strategy Labioda has decided. Just answered my own question. Labioda comes into the pits. So coming towards his pit stall. He's now down to 3rd. He would lose 4th. So depending on how long he has to pit for, is he going to get out before Masaryk? So Masaryk is coming down the main straight here. This is going to be very, very, very close. So Masaryk has the momentum. You can see him in the background. He did gain a lot with the undercut. But has he got enough momentum in this first part? He has. Because Labioda's tyres are not up to temperature. And Masaryk is through to 4th place. So the undercut did work. Labiota tried to hang out as long as possible, but unfortunately the strategy did not work. But Masaryk does have to find about 10 seconds to Kirillov. Now it would be better for the championship if he was able to outscore Kirillov, but he's only 1 place behind, so that's not too bad. So with just over 21 minutes to go, as we see, Masaryk really pushing hard into that corner. A bit of oversteer. With just over 21 minutes to go. Shepherd now leads. Talviti in 2nd. Kirillov in 3rd. Masaryk in 4th. Labiota in 5th. Phil Brown in 6th. Van der Geest in 7th. Pichler in 8th. And Upham in 9th. So those pit stops spaced some of the drivers out a little. Shepherd looks like it's coming up to lap another car. I believe that's Philip Pichler in front. We're going to do these final turns. So Shepherd has been able to open up an 8-second lead. So from that win last time out, she's now able to put in another stunning drive. Didn't qualify on pole, but slight lock up for the tyres there. 10 minutes old tyres and they're now second hand. So as I said, she won last time out. And doing the maximum, so wasn't able to grab the point for pole position. That goes to Tony Talviti this time out. I can mark that on my chart if I can find it. So as Shepherd just laps Pichler coming up to the end of the straight. In fact, that will be Tony Talviti's first pole position, I believe, of the series. So, continuing on to another lap, Shepherd across the line. So Shepherd would grab 25 points out of this win. It's 18 for 2nd and 15 for 3rd, so we're not quite following the Formula 1 rules. But it's still a good spacing of points. So Shepherd first, Talviti in 2nd. Kirillov is only 10 seconds or so behind. So Tony Talviti now after the tyre change. You can see that red and white car just lingering in the background there. So about 10 seconds behind, so it's spaced out. I don't know if there was a mistake from Kirillov or whether he's just pacing himself on this tyre set. 127 is not quite up with the leaders. So whether or not the top two are just head and shoulders above in pace this time around. Some circuits will suit some drivers. Maybe some drivers prefer a fast flowing circuit. other drivers will prefer maybe a bit more of a stop-start. A lot of these circuits have been on the flowing side. Last time out in Canada, the circuit has some very fast-flowing commitment turns, I would call them, but there's a lot of places on the circuit which are quite slow. So this is, I suppose, a distinct opposite, really. So Labiota now, after his pit stop, has now dropped 4 seconds behind Razvik for 4th. That will give him 10 points, I believe. For Brown in 6th place, kind of out on his own at the moment. It's sometimes a bit hard to keep motivation when there is no one around you. And then coming back to John van der Geest again, a driver that is on his own. He's not yet been lapped. The leader Shepherd is now on the same straight, so only half a straight away. But pace has settled down with just over 16 minutes to go. Pichler coming across the line for 8th. 7th place would give Van der Geest 6 points, as luck will have it. And Pichler in 8th could possibly hold on to 4 points. Currently Paul Upham in 9th. Grab 2 points, and I believe Martikainen, he did complete 1 or 2 laps and will come away with just 1 point. Now I don't want to tempt fate, I don't want to go through the points just yet, because things might change. You never know. So Shepherd still pushing on. Faster lap time of 1:26.3, so the fastest lap is worth going for. It is only a point, but a point could make all the difference. So it's worth having a go. I don't know whether we can actually find out the fastest lap after we've finished. I will have a look at the standings page. So 1:26.4 currently. So a lead of now 13 seconds from Tony Talviti as Shepherd comes into the hairpin. Talviti is coming up the main straight. So 1:26.8. So Shepherd has a bit of a pace advantage. And Kirilov will possibly come home with a podium place. Just needs to keep his nose clean. Now I did look in the background there. I was waiting to see a yellow car, but it's not the yellow car I was thinking of. So behind Kirilov is actually his, I mean, you can class him his teammate. It's not his physical teammate. But let's pull up him in the McLaren livery. So as far as team championship, there is a team championship on the line in this series. Just looking down the points here. So we have five teams taking part in this championship. So currently leading the teams, well, not technically leading the championship. They are joint first in the championship, which is GEAR with 43 points. So GEAR is Laurent Lons, which is currently second in the championship. As I said at the start, he's not able to attend today, so he's going to drop down the order. So for GEAR, Lons not scoring today. Tony Dalviti will be scoring today. He's currently in second place. And John van der Geest with some points for GEAR. So joint first with True North Racing. Now, True North Racing, one of the drivers is Kirill Kirilov and Paul Upham. So in fact they are technically teammates. They are running the same skin-ish. And they are teammates in the team championship. So it just depends what happens. It's going to be a finale in 2 weeks at Zolder 67. Whoever comes out on top for the team championship. So we've got the drivers championship that's not going to be settled tonight, I don't believe. And then we have the team championship. So in third in the team championship is Team Solitude. Now Team Solitude is Philip Pichler. I believe has just been lapped by Tony Talviti in second there. So Philip Pichler and Mitchell Kokotsky, who took part last time out but is not able to attend this time. So they are third in the championship with 17 points, so they are quite far behind. More than 26 points behind the leader, so I'm not sure if they're able to improve their position. And then in fourth place in the team championship, Scuderia Ultra. Just looking down the list, there is one driver who's not here today, Jari Lakinen, for Scuderia Ultra. And then fifth place in the championship is Bad Voices Racing. And I think, again, Bad Voices Racing is only represented by Edward Jones, who is not here today either. So there won't be any points for those teams this time out. So, just over 10 minutes to go. Shepherd still leads. And Tony Talviti in second. The gap is now up to about 16 seconds. So, a very consistent pace from Shepherd. 126.4. So, a very, very consistent, lapping, as it were. So, the next round, to say, is going to be Zolder 67. Now, Zolder 67, I would maybe call it a mini version of this circuit. It's very much like this circuit with its flowing turns. Now, if you know the modern version of Zolder, the modern version of Zolder has got chicane after chicane after chicane. The 67 version does away with all those chicanes. It's a very similar shape to this circuit, but it has a lot more elevation change. So remember, these cars are ground effect, so any break with the racing surface is a bad thing. So I am wondering whether these cars will get some air. There is a particular crest in Zolder which the cars might get a little bit light, so drivers might have to be a little bit careful. But again, it's got long sweeping turns, but the course is possibly a little bit tighter than this one. So passing will be a lot more difficult. So as we head into the final round, I would imagine that the championship not being settled, we'll have to do some more maths to make sure we know who's going to have to finish where. But it does look like Kirilov is the favourite, leading the championship when he came into this round. So Shepherd still leading with only 8 minutes to go. Talviti in second. And I believe they've lapped up to 8th place. First and second, so Talviti going into the slowest corner of the track. And now up the back straight. And lap times now dropped to about 1:27.4, so I think Talviti's decided Second place is good enough. I did have a little bit of a chat before the race started, and I said, well, I mean, how hard can it be? This course doesn't have that many corners. And it has proven to be quite a track that doesn't lead to a lot of mistakes. We are seeing a lot of lockups into turn 1, but we're not seeing any particular mistakes or spins that I've caught. So Taubiti just going under the Dunlop Bridge, and as I said, off to that left-hand side is the main Le Sarthe circuit. And we head off into the countryside for the Bugatti circuit. So Kirillov still remaining in 3rd place. Coming up to lap, I think that's Pichler ahead, that is 8th place. So Pichler grabbing some good points. And Kirillov still in the 126s, but it's still, I think it's the hill is too hard to climb, as it were. I don't know whether there was any particular problems with pit stops that dropped these gaps, or in fact increased these gaps, because a lot of these drivers are now quite spaced out. So 3rd. And 4th behind, so Labioda behind hasn't dropped significantly away from Masaryk, but again, I don't think there's a real pace advantage for him to catch Masaryk in these final few laps. So Masaryk, I believe, was in the top 4 where he qualified, and he's had to work his way all the way back up to 4th place. Who knows what might have happened if he was able to keep his position at the start of the race. And I really do hope that there isn't a steward's inquiry that decides the championship. But as I say, I would personally, I would feel maybe a little aggrieved being pushed a bit wide. But it is turn 1. And you can sometimes expect outbraking when the brakes are very, very cold. Going from a standing start up to that first hairpin is very, very difficult. So as we said, Labioda can still see Masaryk ahead, but it looks like it's a little bit out of reach. But still putting in the high 126s. So not too far away. You can at least see him on the straight there. And then we have the Martini sponsored for Brown in 6th place. Just going through the hairpin bends. Now you can imagine back in the Grand Prix era, Formula 1, when they were racing, it would have been Lotus 49s and Eagle Westlakes, Coopers, cars without downforce. So this course would be very much suited to cars like that could drift through these hairpin turns. They did only compete at one round at the Le Mans Bugatti circuit. The rest of the French Grand Prix for Formula 1 going forwards was at the Rouen circuit, which is completely different in terms of the layout and the width of the track. You're basically going through the countryside, so I don't know, maybe safety concerns, perhaps it was just suitability to the cars at that point that they decided not to hold any more Formula 1 Grand Prix from 1967 onwards. So we haven't seen much of John van der Geest either. John van der Geest is in a very, very lonely 7th place back here. So I don't know whether pit stop trouble or maybe a couple of spins has dropped him back significantly, so it's 20 seconds or so. So we did worry at the start of the season that it would be very difficult to follow because of aero push. The first round, a lot of cars were able to follow very, very closely, but since then it's been the same kind of thing. You can follow closely, you just have to prepare yourself for a little bit of aero push. So Philip Pushler again, another 24 seconds or so behind, so I don't know whether there was any particular trouble that has dropped him that far back. Seems quite significant. And then the last of our drivers that are on track is Paul Upham, another 25 seconds. So again, I don't know whether mistakes or whether strategy has spaced these drivers out at all, but quite significant. If you can see on the track map, no one is close to each other at all as we come down to a minute and a half to go. So Shepherd has just started her, maybe her last lap, but she's still pushing out, still pushing on. She has like 20 seconds or so. She doesn't have to. She doesn't have to push. She has this win in the bag. Touch wood. I don't want to give her commentator's curse. But just coming up to what is the final sector. So she could, in fact, slow down and perhaps not do an extra lap, but we'll see. 30 seconds of the race to go. I believe we will be doing another lap. So they cross the line. 20 seconds on the clock. So making everyone do another lap. So it's been quite an uneventful Grand Prix, or race as it were. There was a bit of action at the start where a couple of our championship contenders got together. But you do wonder whether they would have finished where they were. So just taking Shepherd on her last lap. Up to what will be the slowest corner on the track for the last time. I don't think there's any particular concerns with reliability. We haven't seen any reliability issues with any of these drivers. I haven't seen anyone mention that they blew an engine or anything like that. The main retirements have come from accidents and things like that, but no particular troubles or mechanical failures. The only other failures have been connections or other things like that. So, coming up across the line, it will be Maddie Shepherd grabbing second win on the bounce and possibly grabbing the fastest lap. That's a 125.8. So that could be an extra point for Maddie Shepherd, which will do wonders for her championship. As Tony Talviti comes out the final corner, a well-earned second place across the line. And Kirillov grabs the end of the podium. More points for the championship. Good stuff. Mazurek had to fight his way back through the field, but was able to get back up to 4th place. Bioda, I was thinking it was going to be a very different strategy. Tried the overcut, it didn't quite work, and ends up back in 5th, but a very good points haul. And then we have Phil Brown just coming up to what is the end of the lap. Will be the last of our finishers, the last of our unlapped finishers. And across the line, 5th place for Phil Brown. So there you go. Le Mans Bugatti. Le Mans Bugatti. As Phil Brown narrowly missed by Paul Upham celebrating over the line. So, what a race. What a race indeed. What a race indeed. Right. So I can take you through what will be a provisional point score for what is the final position. So, Shepherd was able to come away with the win. So that's 25 points. I believe she may have got fastest lap, but I won't add that one on just yet. Talvoti able to come away with 2nd place. Kirillov in 3rd. Masaryk 4th. Labioda in 5th. Phil Brown in 6th. Van der Geest in 7th. Pichler in 8th. Paul Upham in 9th. And Martikainen in 10th. So, how does our championship look? Now, these are provisional points. We may be missing just 1 point that I haven't added for our fastest lap. So that may go to Maddie Shepherd. I'm not too sure. But the championship is still very, very close. So, Kirillov still leads the championship with 87 points. Shepherd has now moved all the way up to 2nd place in the championship with 79 points. So, just 8 points shy of the lead. So, anything can happen in the final round. Masaryk on 78 points in 3rd. Now, Lons, because he wasn't here this round, did not score. And he now drops down to 4th place in the championship with 71 points. Let's see if I can... I can't see if there's a fastest lap notification. No, I don't believe there is, so I won't be able to see it. So, Tony Talvoti now up to 5th place in the championship with 42 points. So, you can pretty much write off 5th place downwards for the championship. But 42 points for Tony Talvoti. In 6th is now Phil Brown with 34 points. Philip Pichler in 7th place with 32. John Van der Geest in 8th with 26. Marius Labioda in 9th with 23 points. And rounding out the top 10 in the championship is Paul Upham with 17 points. So, thank you for joining us at Sim Racing Online for what was the 5th round of the Formula 79 Championship. Join us in 2 weeks' time for the next round of the Formula 79 Championship. But as I said, there is, next on this channel, will be the Enduro Racers P2 and GTE Championship, which is taking place on Sunday. So join us for that broadcast. So I have been your host, Neil Wood. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.